What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we're talking about, well, Guild Wars 2, and Chris is dropping things. We're talking about dropping things in Guild Wars 2, what they should steal, what they should take from Final Fantasy XIV. And as a heads up preview, you'll be able to take my list right here and also apply what Final Fantasy XI should take from Final Fantasy XIV. I'm sure, keen observers of our content could probably already guess what I'm going to say. But Chris, who's our shout out for today's video?
Oh, it's time for self promo. So self promo today. We got a new merch line for this month. So if you want Lunar Whale mug, Lunar Whale water bottle, Lunar Whale socks, we are picking up the ball anywhere that Square Enix dropped it. We are excited for Lunar Whales, and as a caveat to that, all ad revenue on Twitch from February 22nd to the stream right before FanFest is actually being saved up and put to the side for us to buy Lunar Whales to give away. I'd love to tell you how many. We're currently at $174 worth of ad revenue in the account. There's a little bit of money in there that's not ad revenue from another thing, but we're at $174 of some number. We don't know what whales cost, so we're gonna give away, ideally that's at least one. If they're $1, I have great news.
So guys, if you're ever with us live, you can always use the command merch if you want to check out that link, and also on YouTube it has it below some of these videos, so you can always check that out. Your support is so greatly appreciated, and thank you, and hopefully you find something that you like. Now, the other thing before we dive in is that you have a new community poll. It's up on the channel. If you're ever with us live, you can use command poll, but be sure to check out the community tab. We've got that, and we're going to be taking that and building out and bringing back community feedback on a regular basis based off of your comments. And we have some cool, and the fun thing is data. So if you hit that like button on the polls, that helps share them out and helps us get a lot more data from within this community. So we do appreciate it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the last one, and this new one should be a fun topic nonetheless. So stay tuned to that. But all right, Guild Wars 2. Chris, I'm going to let you take over first. What should it steal from Final Fantasy XIV? What are the things that you think would benefit that game overall?
This is assuming that everything's going to continue being delivered the way it is now.
Yeah.
Guild Wars has full voice acting support for their cutscenes. Now, they have some really clever uses of keeping the cutscenes themselves pretty affordable. So sometimes it's literally your character with like a moving background. So
side by side,
there's some cleverness where it's more artistic and less rendered. And so I think that probably cuts some cost there, but it is fully voice acted. Even my character has a voice. So every once in a while I hear my voice. I play a female plant lady, and so it always it catches me off guard. I'm like, oh, I'm talking. And so that's really meaningful to hear my character contribute in that way. And what I'd love to see is then take that on and tackle larger, deeper stories. The expansions so far, I have not cleared them all. I'm not exactly doing them in order because of some of the other ways that lateral progression works in Guild Wars. But the story so far, in my opinion, has not hooked me in the way that Shadowbringers did. And so I would love to have a depth of story that better lined up with that level of voice acting, because honestly, that's something I want from 14. And so like if Guild Wars could pick up the ball there, that'd be amazing.
So I would say the thing that Guild Wars 2 would benefit and really should take first. I really want to say the content cycle, so I'm going to come back to that, and I'm going to say console and controller support. I think if you brought Guild Wars 2 to console and on controller natively, where not just you could interact with combat, because it's a cinematic action combat system, but you could interact with the menus and more. That's one of the frustrations. And yes, like I have hacked, and you can do add-ons to get controller support to work, and it's just not the same. So much so that I went out and bought a Tartarus Pro 2 and based off y'all suggestions, whatever this is, Scimitar from Corsair MMO mouse. And I love these devices. I am very happy that I made this investment. It's made playing Guild Wars 2 a dream. People are asking me now to play Final Fantasy XIV on this. I have yet to make that step because I have such muscle memory for the controller in 14. So bear with me, guys. I'll try to get something out on Ginger Prime for you guys on some point for that. But that being said, I cannot fathom just how much more well-received and popular if you could boot up your Xbox or your PlayStation and just sit here and just play on, this game, especially if you're not doing high-end stuff. I always hear people like, who could possibly play an MMO on a controller? And I go, oh, hi. Welcome. You should check out Final Fantasy XIV. It is the Mercedes. It is the moon shot. Whatever the pinnacle.
And Guild Wars has half the abilities on the bar.
Yeah.
So like you don't even need the amount of flexibility that the cross hotbar system allows for. Like the combat already feels so meaningful. Imagine a vibrate.
Mm-hmm.
Like on Warrior, a vibrate with controller, like it's clobbering time. Like let's do this.
Go.
Double axes.
Controller. Boom, 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 boom. So and it's rumored that more controller support is coming because it is coming to Steam. But I think how powerful would it be, especially with their content cycle, because it's kind of married. I think a lot of people would love to see, and if you could take anything for 14, I think WoW players would love the content cycle of 14. Every 3-ish months, you get a big old patch, you get content, you get all something you can set a clock to. This is fantastic. And so you take controller support, console support, and then you take the content cycle, and all of a sudden I think you see Guild Wars 2 literally just like, neck and neck. Like what's your preference? What's your art style? That's your MMO. Go. Any thoughts, any other things that you'd like to see added?
I think that when I look at stuff upcoming, there's some things about like inventory management between classes that they're actually fixing. So there's some things about the way you share gear in both games that'll actually get better upcoming in Guild Wars, or I would point that out as something they could learn. I don't want it to be a direct carbon copy.
Right.
But there is something nice about when a new player says if you walk into a grocery store with me and I say, what do you want for dinner? You're in town visiting me. I'll cook anything you want. And you go, well, what are my options? And we look out over the whole grocery store. I mean, all of it. Like, I can make you anything. We could have barbecue. We could have chicken. We could have sandwiches. We could have processed food. Like we could have where I make something, lasagna, noodles. Like the sky's the limit. Anything you can name, we could have, because grocery stores are big, and Guild Wars has gotten to that point where, because it's lateral, every time they add something on, we're not leaving it behind. There's no legacy content that can be ignored easily. It's all being piled on together. And that's really cool. But as a new player, it kind of feels like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? And then the community is like, well, whatever you want. And then they just walk away. And I'm lost. And so I think I would like a curated path that did a better job of saying, like, maybe here's 3 paths through the game for 3 different kinds of players. And we're going to create a set of achievements that we make it very easy to pin to the top, that will kind of just create a track for you to follow. And not like, so Final Fantasy XIV, you're on a train track and you're inside the train car. So you pass by, you can't touch the trees. You shouldn't get off. The train is moving. Stay in the car. It is a sightseeing experience all the way through MSQ to cap. I don't want that, but I wouldn't mind something that's a little more like a bus, where like, if you want to get off, you can catch the next one. No big deal. But like, here's a lot of stops. But if you're ever lost, just go back to the bus. If you've ever been to a foreign city and they have one of those, you pay for 24-hour access to one of their tour buses. That's what I want. I want a 24-hour tour bus that says, hey, if you're ever lost, just get back to one of our stops and we'll make sure you don't miss stuff. 14 is very curated. So I want them to learn from 14. Please don't put something that curated in Guild Wars 2. It would write over a lot of what makes Guild Wars 2 really fun. But man, there is something to be learned there.
I am so shocked that you didn't say what I'm about to say.
Okay.
The HUD layout system from Final Fantasy XIV in Guild Wars 2. Your being able to control your settings, your monitor, what items are positioned where on the screen. You wouldn't take the Final Fantasy XIV's HUD system because you have no control.
I don't like 14's either.
Well, okay.
I want you to learn from the best. You're going to have whatever the bar is or lower. Please don't use 14 as the UI bar. Oh my God.
The video isn't pulled from any other game. It's pulled from 14. So you would rather stick with the UI that you're stuck with in Guild Wars 2 rather than take 14's? Like, is that what we're saying here?
No, I'm assuming that I could recommend a different game. Like,
that's not the title of this video.
Oh God. I mean, if my only choice is between bad and unusable, then sure, let's take the bad one from 14. But the UI in this game is menus on menus on menus. Like, if I had to name,
I'm not saying the full UI, I'm just saying the HUD.
There's no way UI is not on that list.
No. I'm not saying the full UI. I'm saying the HUD, being able to move items, resize items, and more. Like that in and of itself. The fact that like
I don't know how to resize a window outside of doing the little slider or using the right stick on a controller. As a keyboard player, when I'm redoing my HUD, I get a controller out because it's so confusing. I just do it the way I've always done it.
Yeah.
So I hook a controller up and I push the right stick and then I go back to moving it around with a keyboard and mouse. Like, how silly is that? It's just so convoluted that it's like, no, I found out one way and one way is fine and I'll just do it that way from now on. You lost your controller. Well, I guess my HUD's just sized the way it's sized. Like, I guess that's it now.
It's stuck. Now, Rebirth of Swords says, if you think 14 menus are bad, don't play 11. And honestly, I would kill to see Chris have to stick with 11 for a month, like on a day-to-day thing. It would be so brutal, but it would make the most interesting rants.
Does the phrase "you would kill for it" include you paying me?
well, if Dogecoin keeps going up, maybe. So
my wife and I have some big housing renovations coming up, and if Brian pays for those, I'll play 11.
If Doge gets to $10, absolutely. If Doge gets to $10, I will pay you to play 11. So make it happen, internet. Like I'm not Elon Musk here, but to the moon.
I'll do it for a kitchen reno. By the way, that's a lot.
Okay, no. I have 5 kids, man. Like, no. Like you can fix your own kitchen. So I went with the HUD layout as mine. Is there anything else that you like to see them learn or adopt from 14?
So once again, I'm assuming they can learn from this and not ruin what they have.
Yeah.
Guild Wars has been in a position where they haven't been able to pass 14 or WoW. And so they've had to fight Scrappy to grow because they're not the top search result for MMO at any given time. Because anytime WoW gives up that throne, 14 takes it.
Yeah.
In those search results. And so Guild Wars has trouble, and they do a great job of saying, you know what, we don't have the marketing budget to do this. So we will partner with content creators to kind of augment. We've got this kind of system where we can take our limited marketing resources and we can get a lot for our money. Among that, I really like 14's live letter system and things like that, where the communication from Yoshi P, we get so much communication. Mm-hmm. In a 2-year cycle, we have the main game, which gets a minimum of 3 fan fests typically. And then we have each of 5 patches, which get a minimum of 2 live letters apiece. So that is 13 points of contact in a 2-year cycle. Plus we get anniversary letters. We get letters for when things go wrong, when there's a natural disaster or whatever, and they're making a change. We get dev blogs. There are
interviews.
When he takes interviews around a fan fest or something, it is not uncommon for him to take somewhere between 10 and 30 interviews, all of which are anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour long pending translation. And so he answers, him and his team probably have anywhere between 20 and let's say 50 points of contact with us directly, mm-hmm. where we are hearing their words, translation pending, directly. And I don't know any game that communicates that often besides 14. And as a result, when he has something like COVID delays, mm-hmm. which has been a number of pieces of content, when he has something like we have crashes around the server, Raubon Extreme, there is an amount of forgiveness there when he comes out and apologizes, because his apology is not Willy Wonka coming out after decades, mm-hmm. where the only thing I've ever heard from you is bad news. I have tons of positive memories of seeing his face and hearing his words on written sites or wherever, where when he has bad news, I have a lot of context. And I think a lot of the frustrations that, as I'm starting to become more aware of the Guild Wars stuff, we're going to be co-streaming on Friday with Rook from 11:30 to 1:30. We're going to be doing squad streaming on Guild Wars on stream. And as we prepare for that, like, I'm getting to know a lot of the frustrations in the Guild Wars community. Every community has frustrations. Mm-hmm. And the veteran players, a lot of their frustrations, all I can think is, I bet the developers have an answer. And I bet they just aren't communicating. A ton of my issues with WoW right now aren't actually that they're doing anything wrong. It's that they're not talking to us. You've got to talk to us. That is what covers up a huge content delay like what WoW is coming at. That is what covers up in 14 or in Guild Wars when they have complaints about the balance of PvP, or they have complaints about the irregularity of the content cycles. You've got to talk to your players, and 14 in the MMORPG category is easily the best. I can't think of any game that's done it better.
It's really fascinating that it's also, I would agree with you, probably a sense of bias that I have with it, but being that it's also a game that's Japanese in base, and then you also then have, not only are they communicating, but then you have a community driven enough to help with that communication, both in real time, and then still, despite having a community that does the fan translations, that they still follow back up with the official translation, even though it does take them longer. So it's nice that you can sit here and have that. Here's the information now, which can run risks of that, miscommunication, especially when it comes to like adjustments to jobs, or then you have the kind of the official one that helps usually clarify things and more. So that's a really good point. I never really think about that, but as we step into other MMOs, it's interesting to see how that plays out and how people do it really well and do it poorly. And there are lots of good examples over the last year, just PR and marketing alone, that kind of comes into play there. I mean, I don't have anything else. Like, the things that for me, like, to sum up this video, is console, controller, HUD. Like, those three things, like, I adore Guild Wars for everything that it is and the strengths, and I love that it has different strengths than 14, and I don't actually see these games as competition against one another. That's probably, if you don't have a lot of game time, you're like, I can play one MMO, one game only, well then yes, there are competing for that time slot, but I find that I can easily just hop in to 14, I can easily hop in to Guild Wars, and it ends up becoming a preference of how and where I'm playing, right? If Guild Wars was on console, though, just like with 14, it could easily take a 50-50 share of my time when it comes to games. Like, oh, Monday I'm on 14, Tuesday I'm on Guild Wars, and kind of have that back and forth. But right now it's more, well, I'm at my computer. Well, all right, I'll play Guild Wars because I've got the new setup here. I'm not at my computer, then it's Final Fantasy XIV because I have a controller, and I want to sit on the couch, I want to sit downstairs, whatever. And that obviously takes the case of my my game time. Anyway, Chris, was there a hidden phrase at all? I don't know if we teased at the beginning.
Oh, there was. It's clobbering time.
Clobbering time. I completely missed that one. Who did you record? Who gave you that one?
I didn't.
Okay. Well, thanks for the clobbering time. Did you say that multiple times?
No, just
okay.
Once.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm falling off my game. All right, Chris. I'm gonna let you lead us out.
So come hang out on stream. We're gonna be playing Guild Wars 2 on Friday, May the 7th. We play it every Friday this month, but we're gonna be with the exception of FanFest. But we're gonna be doing May 7th from our 8 to 2 stream, 11:30 to 1:30. Rook from Bird of Chess is going to be joining us. Big 14 player on A Realm Reborn, or on the podcast. Aetherite Radio. I'll get there. Aetherite Radio. She's on the Aetherite Radio podcast, and she's a ArenaNet partner on Guild Wars, so she knows both games a great deal. She's a wonderful personality. If you have not met her, she's collaborated with us in the past, and she's going to be squad streaming with me on Friday.
All right, guys, be sure to tune in for that. But for Work to Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and we hope to see you on our next one. But until then,
take care.